Welcome everyone to Fantastic Bones for Human Tombs, our sideshow, where we go off book, off of our regularly scheduled program to talk about a scary movie. And today we're going to talk about St. Maud with Matt, Emmanuelle, and Crystal, and our usual Mark.
Yes.
And I'm Robert.
Welcome on. Thank you all for joining us.
Thank you for making us watch this horrifying movie.
I can't believe he watched it.
Oh, Matt. Okay. Well, we'll talk about this. I'd love to get a general overview of all of our experience with watching horror film in general, because, you know, Crystal and I have been doing a 31 for 31 that started almost a month and a half ago just to get our toes in. But I believe, Bob, you were talking about, shall we just introduce a little bit, since these are a bunch of new folks? Is that right?
Yeah, we should probably say, for anyone who wants to watch the movie St. Maud, spoiler alert, we're going to talk about it here.
Oh, big time. Yeah.
And it's a great movie that deserves to be unspoiled.
Yeah, I mean,
don't listen to this.
Yeah, I mean, there was an event when I knew that I was going to be watching this for the pod, and I was looking at a Twitter thread about, like, you know, the best horror films to watch. There's a bunch of them right now. It's really fun. But someone said something about the event that happens at the very end, and I was like, no, I didn't need to know that, because I immediately knew what was going on, and I was so bummed out. But to that, I mean, Crystal last night when we were watching it, she was like, oh my God, she's about to, and she just called it out anyway. So it's all good. People can see it for themselves. She was on the path.
She told me, but that's because that's the only way I can watch a movie that's scary, is if
you know every event. Jack Torrance is going to take an axe into his chest, and there will be copious amounts of blood coming out of the elevator, and you'll be fine. You'll be fine, because it's a film.
There's a moment in every scary movie that we watch that I have to read the Wikipedia page before we can continue watching the movie.
I know. I mean, I talked about this a little bit on the emails, but I get so stressed by especially like haunting films. Like The Conjuring 2 just stressed me out so bad. I haven't had to close my eyes in a while, but that one, I feel like I was basically eyes shut for about half of it. It's kind of fun to be that scared. And I feel like, so, I mean, specifically for like The Shining or movies like that, I've seen them so many times, or Texas Chainsaw, where they scared me so horribly that I had to watch them over and over and over and over again, where I know them inside and out, and they don't scare me anymore. And now I can just like enjoy them for what they are, which I think they're brilliant works, you know. But yeah, St. Maud, man, is a very, very beautiful film. And I think it's a really interesting film in the canon of horror movies. So yeah, let's dive into it.
Well, should we? I'm curious. I know that Matt loves horror movies more than life itself. Maybe we should tell. I thought of this joke. Me and Matt met when we first met. We were first doing Renoise together, which is a MAUD tracker, which is
okay, all right,
MAUD tracker.
Wow. That's a really good joke. I think we could end the podcast right now.
Yeah, I've been saving that one so we can all go home now.
Let's roll credits. Yeah.
Matt, you don't like horror movies?
Well, no, I just get really stressed out by horror movies, and I think it's my astrology or something, right? That I'm not supposed to watch them. Though really the only time I've been able to watch horror movies was when we were living together in college, and we had those three TVs hooked up at the same time, and we could watch 3 different movies at the same time. And we would usually sometimes we would watch 3 different horror movies at the same time, which worked, and but also like meant that a lot of times the action stacked up, so all the murders were happening at the same time, which was very interesting. But many times we would watch like Philip Glass, a horror movie, or 2 horror movies, and I could like look away when people were getting murdered at the Philip Glass stuff or something similar and get through the horror movie. But there were definitely like moments then when the coyotes would start screaming in the middle of the night that I would wake up and be like, oh God, the horror movie. Since then, I like some of them a lot. Like I love David Lynch, if you could count that as horror movie stuff.
He definitely has some intensely scary moments.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, but I also feel like David Lynch, there's something different. And then like a movie like this, I can actually usually get through pretty well. I get anxious. Like I had to do maintenance on my fish tanks while we were watching this because I was like, I need to.
I've been there.
Yeah. I mean, our journey. So I talked to Crystal about 31 for 31 months out, which is why we started it like back in August, essentially.
Whose idea? Crystal, was it your idea or was it Mark's idea?
This was absolutely Mark's idea. We did this. We kind of did this last year.
A little bit. We're inching in.
What we did was we just tried to watch a scary movie every night in the month of October. And this year he just started planning super early and then was so excited that we just started. Was it like late August?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was pumped.
And we were starting and it's not even 31. There are like 37 or 40 on our list. He just keeps adding them.
I've never heard of 31 for 31. Is that a normal thing that people do?
No, we just
I think so.
Up. Really?
It's an absolutely normal thing that everyone does every year. No, but I mean, it's been really fun watching horror films with Crystal, who, had to kind of like ease in a little bit more, and she watches them with a different lens than I do, and we have like really different critical conversations about them, and it's fun because some of them, which I just inherently love, she's just like, well, this one doesn't work for this reason, and it opens up my mind, for like, all right. I can watch these critically too. They're not just these like jump scare, like, you know what I mean? But
well, I think there's something to that. I mean, there's like, I think historically, the prey in a lot of horror films or just mystery in general or psychological thrillers is young women. And so when I was, younger, much younger, it would scare the crap out of me. I mean, it was so close to home, or I just felt like a potential victim, And so it took a while for me to flip these narratives and look at the allegory. And then once I started examining the allegory, it was like, okay, these films are lavish paintings, they're expressions that reach much farther than, a story about blank blank. And so started seeing them in a really different way.
And some are much better than others because there's a lot of bad ones.
Yeah.
That is true.
Very true.
Yeah. We saw
so
Candyman recently, and now
the
I
new
have
one?
2 horror movies in like 1 month. Yeah, the new one. And
nice. We watched the old one in preparation for the new one, so we're looking forward
I
to
made
that.
him watch the old one too.
But I was gonna
That's
say
a good film, man.
I love that. It's
I was gonna say I'm basically 36 for 36 in that I watch like 1 horror movie every year and have.
Nice. Well, we'll give that to 2.
Yeah, well, it is 2 right now. So who knows what we'll all be by next year? 4.
So, and Emmanuelle, you actually like horror movies and have for a long time?
She's wearing a Hereditary T-shirt right now.
Oh my God!
Nice.
I love horror. I think it started with Goosebumps, and
yeah.
Then like.
By the way, happy birthday, R.L. Stein. You turned 78 today.
Wow,
wait, really?
nice.
Today?
Today?
Yep.
Well,
Wow.
Are you slime?
That's but the Tooth Fairy used to give me Goosebumps books instead of money because she knew that I wanted that more than anything.
Wow.
Amazing.
Yeah. So
That Tooth Fairy is smart.
Still
Under your
with
pillow.
No.
So I don't know. I have a deep love for horror. I love mythology and fairy tales and Jungian psychology, and I like looking at horror with that lens, with like what scares us the most at different times in history, and what does it represent, and the allegory, like you were talking about. So I get super deep into that.
Yeah, I think that Hereditary was one of the first one that Crystal and I watched together where it really clicked. We were just like, wow, this was an amazing horror film, and we can
That
dive
movie
further
is
into
so
just this
gnarly.
genre. I know. I think honestly, the Babadook was one of the first ones like years
Oh,
back. But
I love that one so much.
It's like her
the Bob,
favorite movie.
the Bob Leduc. Yep.
Yeah.
We also love that one, but
Had to do it.
That hit way later than everyone else.
So
Yeah.
I feel like so Mark, you, just to be clear, you were never into horror movies when you were younger, but you are somehow into them now?
I think I loved the idea of them, but they scared me horribly. Like I remember there was even one time we were watching a movie when I was young, and there was just a preview for Alien 3 where you saw Sigourney Weaver in the shower with the xenomorph, like
Oh yeah.
rearing
Yep.
its second teeth at her, and I refused to bathe for probably 17 years, and I still haven't.
I had the same thing with Ghostbusters 2. That's the one with the slime, right?
Yeah.
That
Yes.
slime
I think
that
so.
comes
Yeah.
out of the bathtub.
Yeah.
That shit, like I couldn't. I was like
It,
in the.
it
I
really
would, like, take a really
aggressively
quick shower.
grabs. Yeah.
So it was a thing where when I started getting into going to the midnight movies in Denver when I was living there, like again, I would see The Shining over and over and over again, and just like I would, I loved Bartok already, so I would be like, cool, this is how they're using Bartok in the soundtrack, and this is all these different facets of it, and I feel like The Shining, and then Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and then the Alien series, I could really just watch all of them over and over and over again and sort of break myself down to where I could watch horror without getting too stressed out. But that being said, like watching Mike Flanagan's, like like the Haunting of Hill House or whatever, like
Oh yeah.
that still stressed me out pretty bad 3 years ago when that came out.
I can't watch stuff like I can watch Alien.
That was
can-
scary. Yeah.
Was it?
It's scary.
Isn't that the?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I thought it wasn't. I felt like I heard it wasn't that good.
I don't think I've seen that actually.
Good.
Well, I liked it. It was creepy.
Yeah.
Oh, maybe it was the other one. It's We Have Always Lived in the Castle. That wasn't. Good.
Yeah. That I tried to watch that and I was so mad. I just stopped.
Do y'all know that? You know those books? You know Shirley Jackson?
No.
She's great. She's a great writer. She wrote.
Yeah,
she
is.
has written some pretty controversial, or she wrote some pretty controversial stuff before she died. Worth reading. Scary. A lot of it.
Oh,
I don't have a problem with scary. I don't have a problem with scary books. That's the weird thing for me. I can read like the most horrifying book, but a
What?
movie I can.
Really?
Yeah, I actually love scary books for some reason.
I feel like the difference is that a movie kind of drags you through it against your will.
Yeah,
In a book, you're like taking it out the
there's
experience.
also like this thing where the way they use music has always been a problem for me. Like what all the swell up to like, I just get more and more nervous the more the music becomes like a liggity piece or something, and then I'm like, all of a sudden I'm really stressed out. And then if they don't make anything happen, I'm like, oh God, that was hard.
Yeah.
But when they do make something happen, it's like the worst thing in the world.
Especially when the music is amazing. Like in
Yeah.
Saint Maud, it was so good.
yeah.
It was
You can-
good.
It's another layer that you can tell it's a quality horror movie if the sound design is spot on and just gets under your skin. 'Cause
Yeah,
that movie was stressful as hell.
the sound design definitely adds a lot. Like when she put those tacks in her shoe. I wasn't even
Yeah.
I had to warn him about that beforehand.
She did, and I wasn't even looking. I was like filling up the fish tank with water, but I could still hear it, and I was like, "Oh, that's oh."
Yeah.
At this point, I'm imagining that like you get so stressed out by these things and you're watching them together that you don't actually have fish, but you have like a therapeutic fish tank that you can take care of.
That's almost what it is. I have fish in those tanks, but
Oh, good. Oh, good.
they are therapeutic fish tanks. But yeah, no, I like it's either I close my eyes or I get up and walk around and do something to work off the stress, and that's what I was doing. So
I mean, for what it's worth, I think that some really, you know, what's the word? Like dissonant music, jarring music is functional, at least in a horror film, whereas I feel like it struggles to exist in other media forms, you know, in a mainstream way. There's a mainstream way of having like dissonant, really angular and you know, aggressive soundtracks, where
Yes.
you wouldn't hear, you're just not going to hear that kind of instrumental music on the radio. No one's, you know, unless it's a very specific program, they're just not going to play it. And it's like, they're, you know, it's nice to have a home.
totally.
Yeah.
While you were saying that, I was thinking about working in San Francisco at Detour, and the SF like symphony was doing Penderecki or something. They were doing Threnody for the victims
Really?
of Hiroshima, and they were playing it on like the radio, and the office had the radio on, right? And I was like in a different room, and I came out, I was like, oh, this piece is so good. And everyone thought it was hilarious that I thought the music was good. They were like, this is just horror movie music. And I was like, I love this piece. And so even then, even in like casual listening, got down.
So I feel like these things are actually very intertwined. Like, and I'm curious. Like, I'm always curious about like people that maybe didn't like horror movies that now are kind of getting into it. Similarly, I'm also into like I'm interested in people that never liked metal before and now are kind of getting into it, because like for me it kind of always has been both of these things have always been fascinating for me, and they're just kind of like extremely cathartic genres of their worlds. Similarly, like atonal orchestral music I think falls into that same bucket of like not very, like your average person doesn't like it, but once someone starts to get real nerdy, they get into it.
Well, real quick before we dive deeper, I mean, so Bob, I feel like you've been watching horror films for a long time. Was there ever a point where you're just like, I can't deal with this, it's too stressful, and then you had to like break through, or were you just always in there?
I'm not like, okay, I've never had a negative stress response, let's say. It's always an exciting stress response. So I have been scared by scared, like, you know, excited and like agitated, but I would still like want to go see it. Like I remember sneaking out of like a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle movie when I was like a kid and and sneaking in the theater to go see Friday the 13th part like 7 or something.
Yeah.
Because that was my preference at that time.
We're the opposite. What about you? Same thing? Well, I mean, I just want to. I feel like Emmanuelle and Bob, like when they met, it was like very much the whole weekend was talking about their opinions on horror movies. They're very much the same level of expertise, I think, at this. So I'm interested in that question for you too.
Like what?
Well, like, was there ever a time, or have there been times when you can't deal?
Well, yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, horror movies still scare me when they're good, very deeply. Like during Hereditary, I left the theater and went to the bathroom and just looked at myself in the mirror, and I had to be like, I am here, I am me.
Yeah.
It definitely, they affect me a lot, but I love them. So it does, like Bob said, catharsis, and I think that is very real for me too. I feel like I like watching like this mythical journey of someone facing their deepest fear and just seeing what happens, like if they can push through that and become stronger, or if they just die. I don't know. It's very intriguing to me.
I think there is a line though, at least for me. I'm not interested in seeing the Human Centipede movies.
Oh yeah,
like
no.
Yeah. I've never seen any of them. I refused.
Yeah, it's like this type of like shock gore or whatever you kind of call this thing. Or like, I did watch one of the Hostel movies, but like in general, I'm not really into that as much as I am like a movie, like something that presents a really surreal reality that like is well crafted and is like a good piece of art, versus something that's I don't know, it, even if it's good at being gross, it's like kind of cheap in a way.
So we in that sense, in the surreal sense, we just watched Daniel Isn't Real, which is like,
yeah, we did too, like a year ago.
Incredible. That's beautiful. But on our list, in terms of like the gore porn type stuff, is and I don't know where it falls actually, and I'm a little scared to watch it again. But we have Audition on our list for 31 for 31. I don't know if y'all have seen Audition.
She has.
Well, I saw it in high school. I remember being deeply, deeply horrified, but right now I don't remember exactly what happens. So.
Well, I'm telling Crystal to approach it as a romantic comedy. And, we'll go from there, you know.
I actually, I mean, I know a lot of people really like Audition, and also a lot of people think Audition's like the most like messed up movie that they've ever seen. I think that's a little bit extreme. Like it's got like a really hard part in it, but it's overall as a whole like not that bad. And like also I don't know, I didn't even really like it that much, to be honest with you. But
yeah, Crystal, what about like this wasn't even a horror film, but like the third act of Old Boy, you know?
What about it?
Well, how did that, because that wasn't even like a horror film, but at the same time it's like dealing with the same, I feel like that was a beautifully crafted film, but it's dealing with the same stuff that we're talking about now. Like, what was that, you know, when he's like making his apology and doing his trimmings? No, I mean, were you turned off by that, or you still like overall think that it was successful on that point? Because I feel like that's hard, because I agree that I don't want to watch the Human Centipede. You know what I mean? But I feel like something like Old Boy is a 100% classic. I know it's not a horror film necessarily, but it still like kind of dredges through the same territory.
I mean, I think it just, you know, there is a point in which you need to push past, you know, almost into the absurd to really like accentuate the depth of the message and you know, the horror of the situation. And they do that with, I feel like there are different instruments and methods that traditionally, you know, this genre will use to do that. I thought that was very successful.
Yeah, I think Old Boy worked. Sorry, our dogs are going nuts a little bit.
Ours are gonna definitely bark.
It's okay.
Very loudly.
Good Old Boy.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I agree that Old Boy was one of the more successful, you know, like if you're going to go into something like that where you're seeing like almost torture type things, like Old Boy worked very well. And I haven't revisited Audition in years, and I'm a little like hesitant, but we'll see.
You've seen it before.
Oh, go ahead.
No, you go.
You go.
You go.
It's you.
This is a horror film right here.
So I was just going to say that one of my recent enjoyable experience, like one of the most enjoyable experiences with like this, you know, maybe it's a tangentially related to horror film, but the whole Hannibal series really knocked me off my feet. We watched it twice in immediate succession. And it was just really fascinating how there were individual kind of horrors and then like this larger horrific scene of, characters that you are inevitably having to play into and completely powerless.
And some of the most brutal kills that I've ever seen.
And then
in that show. It's insane.
eventually like really just
Is it a good?
gory.
It's a good show. You're saying?
Fantastic, 100% recommended. It's so good.
I haven't seen it.
Really?
Oh my goodness!
Started
Please.
it, but we kind of dropped off.
Yeah, why did we
because-
stop?
Well, I felt like, I don't know, it did kind of cross that boundary for me where I felt like a lot of it was for like the setups of the gruesome crimes were kind of just, it seemed like shock value to me.
I would say the first half of the first season, and then a little bit of like it wanes on, and you're just like, wow, is it just going to be like this? Yeah, shock value, like serial killer profile kind of thing. It's not that at all. It like completely grows into this meta situation, and that's just the first. It's the beginning of the first act.
I also love I love Mads Mikkelsen. I always
Yeah.
want to
He's
watch
so.
I want to
yeah,
watch anything that he's in, but yeah, I
Yes.
stopped because I was just like, where is this going to go? I felt like it would just continue that in that way the whole time, so I just gave up.
No, the relationship between him and Will Graham culminates in the most amazing way at the end. So I would recommend watching.
I
it.
was much more impatient my second viewing. I was like, why did I even watch this far? Like,
Yeah.
I had like the second feeling. I was like, wow, that was kind of cheesy and not cool. And this is like kind of a dud. I'm waiting for like what I know is to come. And then it does bloom. Yeah.
We watched The Outsider, which the last episode was really disappointing.
Yeah.
But like, did you all
Oh.
watch that? The lead up is great. The whole thing.
You're
I
not talking
don't know
about
about
the
this
movie.
one.
You're talking about a show.
yeah.
It's based on a Stephen King short story.
It's an HBO. It's like, with streaming, I
Oh.
feel like there are these like these mini series now that are like 10-hour long movies.
But it's
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like they're like
Yeah.
they finally figured out how to like do a short story as a TV show and make it kind of as good as a movie.
Heard.
And that
The
was
real
one of those.
it's one of those things where the ending ruins the entire show.
But the build up to the ending is
So,
like
I
totally
don't-
worth it,
I don't know
But-
though. I would say just don't watch the last episode.
Yeah.
Maybe.
What's
weird-
interesting with that is we watched the Innocents the other night from 67, and that was the same. It's based off the Turning of the Screw, which Bly Manor was based off of, and it was so much. I mean, I love Mike Flanagan, but it was so much better than the TV show, because the TV show had to pack in all these other side stories and everything, but they had to really get down to it, and it was so much more theatrical in The Innocents. And
Is this? Wait, hold on. Is this the 1961 film?
yes,
Okay.
yeah,
I
The
haven't
Innocents,
seen that.
61 or 67. I'm sorry, I'm not sure if I'm getting that right, but
Because I just looked it up because I have not seen this.
it's incredible. It's one of my favorite films I've seen in a long time, actually. I
Yeah.
highly, highly recommend it.
Hmm.
And it, goes off like a play. There's like very, very few, it's only practical effects and rare if ever, but it's still pretty scary. And the storyline in the end, we've had so many conversations just about the ending alone, it's amazing. So anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with Matt though. There is something with the 10 episode miniseries that really unpacks a short story, or is it has depth that a movie just can't. Actually, going from long form TV back to watching movies was just bizarro. It's just like, wow, we just crossed that off our list. It took a couple of hours, whereas like crossing off a TV show from your list takes in the case of Star Trek, took like an entire year.
Yeah.
Just like one, iteration. So it's like, I think that 10 episodes and the short run of a show is, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the 3-season Hannibal. I know it was supposed to be 4 or 5 seasons, which I would have been really into. I know they cut it short, and there are some like odd phrasings within the season when they find out they're getting canceled for I don't even know what reasons. But it's worth it anyway to see kind of a shorter run.
I think one of the main advantages a miniseries has against a open-ended TV show is that a miniseries has a story with a beginning, middle, and end.
Yeah.
And an open-ended TV show is constantly trying to revitalize itself so that it can continue indefinitely. So because of that, it uses a lot of TV shows end up getting in a rut of continuing, just recycling their own material a bit.
No, yeah, even Twin Peaks got into that, like the side stories in season 2 just got a little gnarly.
Although the Twin Peaks, the most recent Twin Peaks stuff, to me was amazing. I love.
Yeah, that's some of the best TV that will ever be made. I agree with that one. But I mean, the season 2, like we were rewatching that too, and like the whole side story with the motorcycle dude and like the sultry lady in the bar, and you're like, what the fuck is going on, man? Why does this exist? And
David Lynch is his own category of thing.
Yeah, I agree with that.
On all fronts, musically, personally.
Yeah. Art, his paintings are.
Yeah,
they are horrifying. By the way, those are also really scary.
Have you all watched The Art Life, the David Lynch documentary? You should watch it.
Good.
No,
it's worth watching, and it's like it's great because he's telling stories the whole time, and there are these like stories. He's like, there's this one story where he's like, well, I was taking my dad down to the basement to show him my experiments, and I used to like put like dead animals and rotting food down in the basement and then watch them as they like rotted. And then all I did was I was coming back up the stairs and I looked over my shoulder at my dad walking up the stairs, and his face, he was just horrified. It's like after David Lynch has his first child and he's like living in Philadelphia in this like, I don't know. It's just so good to understand the way he thinks.
But he talks about his childhood too, and how he grew up in this suburban neighborhood, and then this one image of a naked woman coming out of the darkness and being very disoriented. And I feel like that is an image that has, just shows up in all his movies.
Yeah, it was like he tells this story from when he was a kid. That is that.
Yeah,
and
but
then
he
it's
was
like,
it's just cool that he's a very happy kid with a good family, and he just has an inclination, and he's drawn towards darkness and mysteries and disturbing things just because of who he is.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, shall we dive into MAUD here?
Yeah.
Yes.
Get right in.
I've done a lot of research and I took some notes.
Ooh.
Oh, I took notes too. Let me go grab them real quick. Actually,
we literally she had seen it before, but we literally finished the movie like 5 minutes after we were supposed to start recording this.
Oh, cool! We watched it last night.
See, it's fresh in the mind.
I didn't even take notes because I was busy working on my fish tanks.
I didn't take it either.
It's okay. I mean, it's just like I just wanted to I basically have a quick overview of the movie. Here, I'll paste it in the Zoom chat for you.
Oh, good. What's up in the Zoom chat?
My first note is English accent.
It's giving me a beep.
Okay.
It's not gonna let me do it. I'll just paste it in the chat. How's that?
Same on the Google. Oh, good. Okay.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, totally. The bug on the ceiling.
Oh,
bug
I
on the
see.
ceiling.
You're posting this somewhere else.
Mark should have it.
Okay.
It's in our FT4HB drive.
Perfect.
I don't know. There's some interesting factoids to mention. This is the first full-length film by the director.
Rose Glass. I'm so excited about her.
Yeah, this is her first movie.
Yeah, that's so amazing. I can't believe it at all.
Also, the music composer, his first soundtrack.
Oh, really?
Wow.
Yeah.
The music was good.
I listened to an interview with him today, and I have to tell you this, Matt, because I think it's hilarious. He was talking about how he makes the music, and he says that he uses Fruity Loops and a 4-track tape recorder.
Whoa. Did you hear that? My Google thing just said stuff to us. He uses Fruity Loops and a 4-track to do that?
Yeah. Yeah.
I love music, people.
And he says, so he recorded a woman playing flute, and then he slowed down the tape and processed that through a guitar pedal, and that contributed to most of the material for the soundtrack.
Well, that's cool.
He actually made the soundtrack in 2002 and then just dropped it in.
Yeah. This is also interesting. His favorite, he was like, the interviewer was like, what are your favorite movies? And these are the movies that he listed: In Fabric, High Life, and Killing of a Sacred Deer.
Wow.
He's got really good taste in movies.
Nice.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty crazy.
Yeah.
In Fabric is like my favorite movie.
In Fabric. Everyone should watch it.
Yeah, High Life is probably one of my favorite movies. And Killing of a Sacred Deer is nothing to shake a stick at. High Life has a freaking great soundtrack in my book.
So Bob, can you just tell us where that plot that you listed out has been pasted to?
Oh, I didn't send it to y'all, Mark. It's in the I have a Saint Maud doc in the drive.
Okay, cool.
And it's got a little plot overview that I made. It's pretty kind of silly. It's a kind of silly plot overview, and some other notes as well.
Got you.
I looked up some things. There's not an actual Saint Maud, but there is a Saint Matilda.
Oh.
And I don't think that has anything to do. So Maud and Matilda have the same root name, same Latin name root. She mentions in the movie that she used to work at Saint Afra, which is a saint, and who died by fire because of yeah. So maybe that is intentional. That seems like it might be more intentional.
Yeah.
So okay. So the movie starts out with a bug on the ceiling. That
yeah, and this is a recurring theme.
I guess later it represents God, perhaps.
I think
Maud's God
or something,
or Satan.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah. I was just gonna say.
I thought it was. Yeah.
There is
okay. Well, so this is like, I think this is the overall question of this movie is that do you interpret it as what Maud is experiencing as a delusion that she is having, or is she possessed by a demon, whatever, or
possession? Yeah.
Or does she encounter a demon because she killed?
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of ways to read it, I guess. But how do you guys think about what happened in the movie?
Okay. Okay.
I will go first, he says.
I mean, we've been talking about it, so like I feel like I have an idea, but I'm curious. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'd like to hear from Emmanuelle.
Yeah, go ahead.
You go.
I do. I mean, I like at the beginning how it seems more subtle, but then I definitely, by the end of it, I felt like she had been chosen by Satan and he was using her to get her soul and other souls. So that was my interpretation.
Okay.
Fascinating.
I initially, when we were taking notes through while it was happening, I did mark first, second, third, and fourth possessions. They seemed like possessions to me, just like on first reading. And it was, I definitely agree. I mean, there was it seemed like she hallucinated a demon at the end.
With Amanda?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so, like, there was a very clear, like, we saw that window, we saw through to, like, maybe what she had been experiencing. But it definitely seemed like mental illness, where that comes from or what that is or how there's a question there that I agree with Bob. Like, is this a possession film or is this a mental illness film?
Yeah, you could definitely read it different ways.
I read it as a trauma film where she had been working as a nurse and killed yes, we all know there's spoilers, but like had killed one of her patients, and then she went into the private care, and I think she was having severe PTSD, and also I read this as like a combination of that and sexual repression, where like I feel like she was in love with Amanda and all the acts that came from there, and her newfound entrance into the Catholic religion led to what had happened. I didn't see this as an actual possession film personally.
Yeah, I didn't really.
I don't think of it as a possession film. I do think that what made her character rich was this background of trauma and mental illness, and the fact that she was hallucinating a lot. And I think that a part of the movie that was cool was that she, like, that all tied into it. But I think in the end that Satan, like, she read Satan as God, or that's how I saw it, was that she was experiencing all of this, and some of it was hallucination and some of it was her actually being spoken to by Satan and directing her, because I thought that he was,
I guess that's what
and then to kill herself, so that
to like make herself a martyr in that way, but it was completely against the cause ultimately, right?
Yeah.
But interesting. So okay, go ahead.
I have an amazing factoid to drop on you guys that I discovered. The trauma backstory is actually a true story.
Wow.
Really?
So,
that's cool.
So the director said in an interview that she was talking to a nurse that where, like, basically there's that scene where she's giving CPR and she bursts, like, basically crushes someone's chest.
Yeah.
Reverse chest burster. Yes.
Yeah, is actually a true story that actually resulted in this nurse having like tremendous PTSD.
Of course. Yeah.
So the backstory to this movie is actually a true thing.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, I thought it was much scarier as a psychology movie and nothing to do with any reality of God or Satan or anything like that. Like, and I think part of that is just because I have always been really scared of the idea that my reality might be different than other people's reality. And it gets like reinforced in really weird little ways that are scary. Like I think I read a coherent email after my 10-hour workday or something, and then I read it later and I'm like, wow, that was a mess. Stuff like that. And I don't mean that's very mundane sounding, but
no,
there's
I mean that can be like legitimately horrifying if you're like,
yeah.
yeah.
And also like I'm very scared by like the like kind of the concept of change, of unexpected or kind of like misdirected change, or being like infected by something and then changing, which is like kind of a common theme in a lot of these things. And like why I love the Southern Reach, the Area X stuff that Jeff Vandermeer wrote so much, and all those things, is because like in those books, like the main character is infected by mold and then becomes something different than what she is. And I feel like that's also the same thing here in a weird way. Like there's a seed, and who knows if she was already, from my read of it, was like, who knows if she was already going through whatever she's going through psychologically when that initial event happened, because you see the bug in the ceiling in the very beginning, and you see that also. So did she kill someone in like a delusional or kind of psychotic state, and then is she going through a PTSD there, or what? I don't know. That's much scarier to me than
and I have a question kind of about this, in terms of there was one aspect of this where I couldn't tell if it was a delusion or a shared delusion or anything, where she had like orgasmic events. Like, did y'all think that was actually her experiencing orgasms because of what she had perceived, what she had done as a savior to Amanda, or was this just like another hallucination? Like, to me, I felt like that might have been real. Like she was having these actual physical events,
Yeah,
and
it did seem real to me. Yeah.
Well, she interacts with Amanda on that. So like,
and like the first, the second one, right, where they're doing the body therapy and and all that, but
yeah.
And that's what leads her to try to cut her off from her girlfriend. But
the director referred to those as godgasms.
Yeah, I mean, there's also like this element that like after she has the one-off with that dude, and he's like, I remember seeing you years ago.
Yes.
Like, work in the streets. And so, or doing whatever that she, just being promiscuous. But it seemed like even before the killing, like the accidental killing of the CPR patient, she was already engaging in really kind of possibly therapeutic, like just self-medicating with sex and alcohol, and possibly repressing actual her actual sexuality and not being able to like come out, possibly, but in It's Not Daniel, there's like a lot of reference to the period of time in which schizophrenia comes on.
Daniel isn't real.
Daniel isn't real. It's not Daniel. It's not Snowflake.
It's not Snowflake.
I always get this wrong. Daniel isn't real. So, maybe there's a tie with just having an event that triggers the schizophrenia. If it's not totally demonic, like Satan, a kind of demonic entity. But that's how those two can play in. The other thing is the William Blake.
Yeah.
tie-in.
That's a whole thing too.
Going back to Hannibal, yeah.
Going back to
a lot of stuff. William Blake. Yeah.
I mean, I only said that because he's such a presence in all the Silence of the Lambs and all the stuff that came from Thomas Harris. But that's how I got to know William Blake. So I assume that like he's a massive figure in other things as well. So it was cool to see that, and she was so obsessed. with all that and making the collages on the walls and everything.
And
but,
using the Red Dragon specifically.
yeah,
A lot of records on Voidhanger Records use William Blake as artwork, which says a lot about that record label.
I love Dead Man, the Jarmusch movie.
Oh yeah,
And that's kind of where I always go back.
Your poetry will now be written in blood.
Yeah, totally, exactly.
Yeah.
Actually, I saw that here in Santa Fe at this film festival they have here, and the actor who played the Indian was there, and he talked about that movie and like what it was like to be in that.
Oh my God, that's incredible.
He lives here, and it was really interesting. And it was like the first time it had been restored. It was like from the original, whatever. I don't know what millimeter it was, but it was like really a cool experience. But yeah, that's what I was
beautiful.
When I'm thinking about William Blake is like that Purgatory movie. Dead Man. I don't know.
Well, hang on. I gotta re-see that because like I was so excited the first time I saw that because like that your poetry will now be written in blood stood out to me because it was like a self-divine sample. To be honest, like going back, it was like DJ Abilities that sampled that, and like I was just like, oh my God, this is where it came from. They got it from this Jarmusch movie, but like it just did not even like occur to me like whatever 10 years ago that was a Purgatory movie. So I need to try again. So good looking out.
Yeah.
I'm definitely
the Wild West, which is really just purgatory until the very end, and he gets tobacco and gets put in a boat and sent out into the it's a cool allegory, I think. Not to distract from this movie, because this movie was also a cool allegory. This movie, what this movie really reminded me of was Martha, Marcy, May, Marlene. Because do you know that movie?
Nope.
Mary, Martha, May, Marlene.
No, it's Martha, Marcy, May, Marlene. Yeah, Martha, Marcy, May, Marlene.
Okay, I'm trying to write this down and I'm having a really tough time. Can we decide on one?
It's Martha, Marcy, May, Marlene. I'm like 95% sure it's that. Let me just.
No, you're right. You're saying it right.
Okay, and that's a movie about a woman who is in a cult and she escapes from the cult and goes to live with her sister, I think. And the reason I think that movie and this movie there are lots of parallels, like it's the person's first movie they made and whatever. But the reason I think it's really similar is like for me, it was like a question of the mental health of the scariest part of the movie was the question of the mental health of the main character. Like this person has endured something very extreme, and you kind of get hints of what they've dealt with, but you don't know. I mean, I love things where it's a totally unreliable narrator. Like my favorite books are that all these things are like that. And I felt like this was an unreliable narrator movie that was, and on both are like these women who are kind of in trouble, but are tricking people into thinking they're not. And then the ending of both, like this one had this had like a much more direct ending. Like she's seeing herself as this angel, but then you see her, the final thing is you see her like burning to death, but also I don't know.
You're talking about Saint Maud, right?
Yeah,
so that
Maud,
very split second after she martyrs herself, you actually see the reality.
Yeah. And
just to be clear, I actually read, now the director never said this, but I did read a review that interpreted that as actually being Amanda in the fire.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Weird. I disagree.
What?
I disagree.
Like
I disagree
got
also.
Stabbed to death
Why?
by
How?
a scissor.
Well, but yeah, I mean, I also disagree with that interpretation, but it's another way to view it.
Wow, that's cool.
I was initially kind of disappointed that the cut was to her burning, but then I was like, I mean, as I've thought about it more in the past, like, what is it, hour since we finished it?
Since I've been reflecting on this film,
it's like two frames of her burning. It's like you don't. It's like the final two frames of the film.
I wasn't sure how much to trust that part. I don't know.
I agree with you.
The first part you shouldn't trust. The one
Well-
that she has angel wings, and then the actual reality, she sees herself as being a martyr and everyone comes down and bows. And then what it really is just like this horrific scene of someone.
The thing
You don't think so?
Well, I keep coming back to this idea that for me, the movie is actually a lot less good if it's obvious that horrific scene is happening to me. Like I want to be questioning whether that horrific scene is happening or not, or is this her mental health? And that kind of puts a nice period on the end of the sentence. Like,
no, but I think it's still open because
but then I come back to this idea that
it allows for both. I mean,
Yeah.
like, I don't know if it's just because I want this interpretation or because it makes sense, but I think it makes sense to me that we have a traumatized person who is a very complex character, and she is an easy target for Satan because she is very vulnerable and she has this pride where she wants more than anything to be a saint, which is a very egotistical want. So I feel like her background
interesting.
and the fact that she's traumatized and has this history makes it so easy for Satan to present himself as God to her, and for her hallucinations to feed into that, and then for her to just like do it all on her own, and Satan just like has her in a basket.
Interesting. So do you see Amanda as Satan in that case?
No, I think in that scene that Satan temporarily, like, that was part of her
Takes on Amanda, yeah.
Yeah, her hallucination, so that Satan
totally,
could make
yeah.
her kill her, because to go to hell, you kill someone, and then she killed herself. So it was like she was doubly into hell.
Sealing the deal.
Yeah, sealing the deal. Well, I love seeing it as both things. Does that make sense?
No, it does.
Absolutely.
That's super fascinating because that's not at all the read that I took on it. Just to go back really quick, like, because we were talking about like the martyr scene at the end where she's martyring herself, and like there's this beautiful scene where her wings sprout out and everyone bows down, but then like the cut where you actually see her suffering the true results of what it means to burn yourself alive, like, is like a tenth of a second, and that's it. And then the credits roll. You know what I mean? It's phenomenal, honestly.
Yeah, I thought it was brilliant. I mean, I thought that was a very obvious interpretation. I don't know. I never thought that there was another way to see it.
No, one of the things that I like about this movie very much, there's a lot of like unreliable narrator types of movies, or at least that trope comes up as a tactic where it's like, oh, you were just dreaming, or you were just imagining this thing. Like, many movies this comes up, and it's oftentimes the worst possible way to develop a plot, because it's like the thing that just like throws away the previous material many times, because it'll be like, oh, it was just a dream, or
it's a cop out. It's like
which is like,
isn't that what
really,
they call like Deus Ex Machina? Isn't that the same vibe? Like it was all a dream, or do I have that wrong?
What are you talking about?
I thought there was like a whole technique in storytelling, where it's like it was all a dream, Deus Ex Machina.
Yeah, totally.
But you know what I mean? Where it was all a dream, like, you know.
Yeah, but so this is a technique that's really hard to do well, to do it right in a way that just doesn't trash your previous material or discredit it. So like Saint Maud is a movie that does this with such expertise that we're all like having different interpretations about what actually happened.
No, it's true though. I can totally see it as pure hallucination, and that all of it was just a symptom of a blossoming mental illness that began with her trauma.
That's totally how I read it. And actually, where I'm coming from, I feel like I'm the only one who felt like I wished that the final cut of the burning person wasn't there. And my reasoning for that is, I feel like everyone else is like, the ending was incredible, and I was like, damn, I wish they hadn't put that in the ending. I'm with you.
I'm with you on that, because it really, if that wasn't there, it would have thrown the rest of the movie into question.
It would be questioning.
Yeah. Good call.
Have you ever seen Horse Girl?
No.
You seen Horse Girl?
Oh, you have to see that.
Horse Girl is another movie.
Oh yeah. Wait. I have seen that.
Yeah, you told me to watch it. Yeah, that's right. I think you were the one who was like, you should watch Horse Girl.
I forgot about this movie.
Oh wait, horoscope or horse girl?
Horse Girl. Yeah.
Horse girl. All right, I got it.
Here we go.
And I don't want to give too much away because you all haven't seen it.
Yeah,
but
don't give it away.
But there's the ending of that one made me actually say, wait, was she crazy, or did that actually happen? Which I really liked that. And then as I thought about it, I was like, oh well, I have an obvious impression of what's going on, but it was much more disturbing to me to walk away with no period. And I guess I like that in writing too. Like in books, I like the books that typically the reviews online are like, I didn't like how it didn't finish. It kind of just stopped. I like that because then I have to think about what it means to me. And I guess that was the problem for me with this, is like, I wanted to see her ascend to heaven and be like, whoa, okay, cool. Was that actually
So there was another like small detail that a lot of people like that spoke, like it jumped out at me when she said it. And it was that God spoke to her.
Yeah, but God's voice was absolutely her voice pitched differently.
Right, but like God doesn't speak to people. That's like a thing. He speaks to like really, really, really special, prophets. God doesn't come down and speak to people in the way that she was talking about it. So yeah, this is totally to support your point, like that she's speaking to another God. She's speaking to a God that shows up as a cockroach, as a vermin, which is typically the devil. And like there are all of these like really like that just like was like super jarring, when Amanda was like, does he speak to you? And she's like, yeah. And I'm like, no, you're not talking to God then. Like there's this disjunct. And I think that would ring in, like it's a huge red flag in the narration. And so that ending could have been there or not, but there's one thing for sure. Those were not actual angel's wings, because she was not praying to she was praying to a demon essentially.
I would just rather question that. And also you should talk, but I do want to say I would bet money that the way they made God's voice in the movie was pitching her voice down, and that supports her being crazy because it's her own voice talking to her. I would like put feel that.
I looked this up. It is Morfydd Clark. She's the actress, and she speaks Welsh, which is the language.
Oh, okay. We were wondering.
Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah. I don't feel like it's a period though. I still feel like the fact that we're still talking about it is completely open to interpretation. And I don't think us seeing her burning in the last second negates the fact that she, in her own belief, is ascending to heaven. Like she still is. It's just like maybe that was the view of the people on the beach that saw her.
Yes, I agree with that too. Yeah.
She herself is ascending to heaven. I feel like it leaves room for everything, and it is not like, I also hate movies where they wrap it up in a tight bow. I'm just like, no, nothing in the world is like that. Nothing works like that. So
there is a couple of things that also throw it into question. Like when she towards the end, when she's getting her visit from the old coworker Joy, at that point she tells her that she is transformed, which is an interesting thing. And like another thing that's really interesting throughout the movie is that she's always overly confident in everything that she does, which is like, I think Mark, you said that like she was gonna you mentioned that she was in like Catholic or something, but everything is actually like very anti-church establishment, throughout the whole movie, which kind of puts more emphasis on the fact that she's making this up herself. It's her ego, and it's not.
Well, I mean, one thing that comes up is that she's newly converted, and obviously she had been like someone who had been part of like the current social club and the social scene. That comes up when she's like her bar scene, basically her relapse into society. Yeah, like out of like the like really, really intense Catholicism, but like she's a newly converted Catholic, and she feels like she has to do everything 100%.
But what Bob's saying is that she's not actually following any organized religion.
She's not Catholic.
Her ideas of what it is.
Like she's the opposite of Catholic. She's
I loved that about it. How it was so. I've never seen a movie where I loved so much like the over. I don't know what you call it. It's just her voice speaking when you don't see her talking.
The narration. Yeah.
With the voiceover?
Like all her prayers?
I didn't know. Yeah, voiceover.
Is that what you're talking about?
Yes.
Yeah, like
voiceover. I feel like that was so effective in this film. And just like it was even more going into her own head and her own world. And it was such a personal bubble. And the whole movie made me think about how much we're all in our own heads and we're trapped like in this very narrow view of everything, and how our perceptions so color everything. And just, it's so strange that all of us on earth are in these very narrow tunnels of vision, interpreting things in these completely different ways.
Yeah.
She only ever does that when she's praying in the movie. Like it's never just her thinking about something. It's only when she's praying.
Can we talk a little bit more though? Because I feel like she's like,
the podcast is over.
She's all right, y'all. I'll see you next time. No, but I mean, she in her mind is doing the best she can to be a devout Catholic, and you're saying that she 100% is
You
failing.
keep saying Catholic, but nothing in this movie has anything to do with the Catholic Church.
Okay, well, can we talk about that? Because in my mind, I was just like, obviously, she's doing the Catholic faith. Why am I like perceiving that, and why is that incorrect?
I don't know why you're perceiving that.
I don't either. That's
I think it's just because it's a very general thing. Like it's her own personal interpretation of it, which is more like we're in this girl's world, and this is just her interpretation of this thing. I think that's awesome, and it makes so much sense to me.
The only thing that you get from her is that she's talking about God, and she has like a cross.
Catholic, 100%. No,
but this is an interesting thing.
This is a really fascinating point to like be brought up at this point, because like I'm like in my mind the whole night I was just like, yeah. So she totally went Catholic.
There was actually 100%. Someone. I listened to someone talk about this that was talking about. I read a bunch of reviews of this movie. So someone was talking about this movie in the context of horror movies that use like Christianity or Catholicism. And this is one of the few movies that like really, well, first of all, most movies have this like absurd supernatural element to them, like Stigmata or some like movie like this where it's like,
well, by the way, this movie started with an image of her having stigmata. It started with her bleeding out of her palms. Like the very first image that you see is a stigmata image.
Blood coming out of her palms.
I didn't even know.
I thought her hands were just covered in blood.
By the way, very first image you see is stigmata.
Well, is it her bleeding or is it her having blood from the accident?
Well, either way, it's a stigmata image, right?
It is a stigmata image.
So, and that's another reason why I immediately was like Catholic.
I gotta look this up.
I just looked it up, and it is intended to have references to Catholicism. I just looked it online because I felt
Satan.
I felt like there was a point in the movie when someone said something about Catholicism, because I was like thinking it had references, and I don't know anything about Catholicism really. So I was like, well, okay.
Oh, brother, Matt,
I think just like the fact of like Catholic nuns right?
Yeah.
And sorry, nurses, like that whole tie-in with nursing and Catholic nuns.
Well, but
and also her garb too. Like she looked like a straight up nun. But is this
after she did her like style upgrade?
Yeah, totally, man. When she became an influencer, yeah.
Okay, wait. The reason why I keep pushing on this Catholic thing is because part of the thing about the Catholic Church is that it's really like it's very dogmatic. Like what the Catholic Church, the pillars of the Catholic Church, it's like structured in a way that the Pope and the Church and all the dogma that they've built over time is the restrictions of the faith. And everything in this movie is like this girl is making it up on her own as she goes along, as she figures it out, which is like doesn't strike me as anything having to do with Catholicism.
Well, that's the God spoke to her a bit. It's like if she were studying and actually a part like that, you wouldn't be able to just profess that,
Interesting. Okay.
Also, didn't you say something about the voiceovers only happen when she's praying?
Yes.
Because I didn't realize that. I thought the voiceovers were her. I mean, a lot of the times, like when she's locking her door or like walking down the street, I thought it was like a narrative of her thoughts a lot of the time.
Maybe I missed one, but I was pretty sure that's... Sorry, hold on. I just wanted to see this first scene.
I just thought it was, I don't know, sprinkled throughout. I didn't think it was about... I just watched it, which is weird, but it's a very, I don't know, subtle but intricate and detailed movie. So I could have just imagined.
Yeah. It's all in your head.
Yeah.
I mean,
I'm glad you pointed that up, pointed out that appreciation, because I didn't at first take that in totally, but if it's there in my memory now that you bring it up.
The part where she prays, or
or just the impact of her voice from internal. Yeah.
I'm rewatching the first scene right now.
The first words are "Dear God," and you'll see immediate stigmata symbology. It's right here.
I can't even. It's like this scene is too dark. I can't even see her hands.
Yeah, that scene is really dark.
You have a brighten option on your little thing right here.
On your alternate monitor. On your alternate screen.
Your alternate universe.
I wonder if
I'll just take your word for it.
Thank you.
How about that good drumming that happens when Saint Maud starts on her relapse?
Yeah, I saw your notes. Good drumming.
Wait, you were talking about like the club music?
No, there's this guy drumming outside. It's like,
oh, the snare drummer.
I want to believe it's a subtle nod to the brilliant movie Birdman.
I thought so too, but it wasn't. Okay, I mean, my opinion. I had a lot of like little side thoughts while that was going on, and I was like, that's interesting, because I warm up on like snare material every day. The Birdman drumming is way better.
Oh yeah. No, this
like far better, and that material just seemed like kind of like busker fodder to me,
Yeah, it seemed like that guy had never played snare drum before.
So why did you love it so much?
Because everything before that, like all of the music before that and the audio, you've had the composer's soundtrack, which is basically just long sort of drony things. And then you have like all of this like new wave funk that is at Amanda's house. Like this, she has the silliest like electro funk tracks.
Yes.
and then and then all of the suddenly you get this kind of like live music, which was really jarring to me. I was like, whoa, where are we?
I agree, because it did send me on my whole just like, I'm thinking about snare drum for a while, and I don't know what that would do to someone who hasn't like been shedding snare drum material daily for a while. But like also just looking at the hands and the technique and thinking about like, yo, what does this look like if you're in New Orleans or in New York on the subways? What does it look like if you're a busking snare drummer? And, you know, for a long time in high school, I was a busking snare drummer in Denver. I would take a snare drum and a floor tom, and I would busk on the streets, just playing like roots beats, you know? And so I like would look at this dude's technique, and that's what I thought about for about, 5 minutes while the plot was progressing.
Busking is a thing that I've always wanted to do, but I've never really had the time for or
it's
courage
such
for.
Fun. It's really great. It's so worth the time and energy. It's really great to be standing around people who basically walk into your instrument, don't pay you and don't pay mine to, or they just stand there while you're tuning and they're like, oh, this is amazing. And it's like, why don't you pay for arts education? How about that?
I mean, that being said, I've developed compositions over time.
I don't know if we should go down this
busking.
rabbit hole of busking, please.
I was always, I don't know. It's like a
we
thing.
We should just cut that part out. We have to edit that whole bit.
None of us knows how to edit audio.
I want you to know something that I am not going to edit this episode.
So the last thing that I want, if we could just cover one more thing on the movie.
No, please.
It would be to cover Amanda.
Yeah. Let's cover her up.
Or not. She was just amazing. She seems like this, the funny thing is that she seems like she's engaging in like the hedonist actions and, leading her life in this really irresponsible way. And yet she's leading her life exactly the way that she wants to, and having total control over her actions, except for like this. The horror is in letting Saint Maud in.
Yeah. Well, so there was an interesting thing that someone mentioned. I forget. I think it was on a YouTube review that like, that Amanda has like never really regarded Maud's fervor for like Maud regards this religious conversion that she can provide for Amanda as like her reason for existence, whereas Amanda regards it as just like this silly thing about Maud, or like this kind of interesting thing. And so she doesn't really take it very seriously. Even at the very end where she like is essentially like rejecting her before Maud kills her, she like apologizes and she's like, I'm sorry I was so harsh, even though she's obviously just broke into her house. And like, like she doesn't take Maud seriously and like about her at all. Like, and she's happy to like,
about breaking and entering at that point. Yeah.
She's happy to like make fun of her in front of all of her friends or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's probably because she's dying and she doesn't really care about anything, I think. And I think she looks at Maud as kind of a strange circus animal in a way. Just like, oh, look at this freak. I'm just going to watch her and sometimes enjoy, sometimes not, She doesn't really care about anything.
There's also a weird, as someone who worked in home healthcare for a while.
Oh yeah, you have done that.
Yeah, I did do that. And it was like for 3 years or something crazy.
Yeah.
And as someone who's worked, there's like a psychological need. I've thought about this a lot because I was Maud kind of in a situation with someone who couldn't take care of themselves. There's a psychological need for the person who you're caring for when you're like when you're holding the person on the toilet and you're cleaning them after they go to the bathroom and you're bathing them, they can't bathe themselves and stuff. There's sort of a psychological need to turn you into less than human, maybe. I don't know, like to disregard the seriousness of you. Or at least that was my experience of doing that. Totally. Is like I all of a sudden became the bodily function, kind of, and in order for me to become the bodily function, like I had to be
distance.
Yeah, there had to be a cognitive dissonance that caused the distance or something. Yeah. Like I had to be less than a being. So it wasn't, I don't know what
that makes sense. Yeah, because it's like if you're dying and you don't have someone bathes you and wipes your ass for you and all of that, then maybe some part of you feels like you have to look down on them so that you can feel better about yourself.
And there's a weird power struggle there too.
Yeah, power play.
There's like the power is the person who is essentially powerless in those relationships. Like, I don't know how to say it exactly, but
would you say, I mean, you never did it you only did it for one person, right?
Yeah.
And from what you've told me, that person seems like maybe less than...
Yeah, but this character in this movie, in certain ways, reminded me of that. In that she was desperate, and she was desperate, like in the way that I understood her putting.
You're talking about down. Amanda.
Amanda, you of... and in comparison to the person I took care of, there was a desperation about their situation that made them also have to do that type of stuff to keep that upper hand. And that's kind of where I guess I'm going,
Yeah. I mean, for what it's worth, it seems like there was also just this, it takes a lot of, for what it's worth, like to make your own life and to lead the life that you want to live, regardless, takes some courage. It takes self-confidence. It takes everything that MAUD wasn't. And it was like,
well, she has self-confidence.
Confidence?
Yeah.
MAUD.
Yeah. For sure. Because everything that she did, she was sure that she was doing the right thing in her mind.
Well, there's something different between like the self-confidence thing and the delusion there, though, right? Because she was doing it because she thought God was telling her to do it, not because she thought she wanted to do it. She thought she was fulfilling it. Even when she starts to fall apart, she's like, "Why are you making this so hard for me?"
Yeah, I guess that's true.
So there was that's actually a really interesting thing to think about. Is this character is she doing this very desperate stuff from a place of self-confidence? Because she's very sure, like even when she kills Amanda, she's sure that she should be doing it, right?
Yeah, but it came out of delusion.
But it also is she's completely I thought it was really expertly done how different she looked in her different transitional scenes. Like when she's in the bar and she's like hitting on that guy across the room.
Yeah.
It looks like a totally different person than when she's
eyeliner stands out so much in that scene.
Yeah. And I thought that was really interesting because it almost spoke to this idea that she's really like a shell. And actually what's filling the shell is this kind of delusional religion thing that she's come up with, which is a perverse version of what the institution, like you've said a few times, it's like a perverse version of the institution. She really doesn't know what the actual institution says. She's come up with this idea that she's this she's becoming a saint, and then when she starts to lose that, she becomes this totally different person, even physically, kind of very subtle.
Yeah,
I don't know. That reminded me also. I've been thinking a lot about The Green Knight, which we saw.
No spoilers. I need to see it.
But there's a scene in The Green Knight where as I thought about it, I was like, man, the way that changes the character so many times. Like the character is the same person, but there's these allusions to that character being different parts of the story and stuff. It was the same kind of thing for me. I was like, wow, this is a fluid. This person is a fluid character.
Did you see that in the theater?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And did you have any stress about that at all?
No, I mean, it was an intense movie, but man, I
Okay.
don't know.
Okay.
That's
Okay.
That's the type of, I don't know. I like that.
Are you talking about with COVID or just because it was a scary movie?
No, I'm
Was it
asking
just
about the
scary
horror
or
film aspect. I know
or
it's
just
it's
scary?
more of a fantasy,
Yeah, it's more
but
Fairy tale.
yeah, it looks amazing. It looks so good,
No,
and I can't
it's
wait to
really
watch
good.
it.
Yeah.
It was definitely good. I mean, it hits the things that I like, where it's like it's obtuse and kind of.
It's slow, and
Slow.
it was like it was very surprising. So yeah, it's worth watching.
I mean, we'll talk about. I'm pretty fascinated with texture right now in general, and I was like, that's what I want to talk about a little bit when we talk about music next week or whenever that is. But that movie is very textural, which I love. I love textural movies, and that one really so it can be scary. That's the funny thing about horror movies for me, is it like David Lynch I think of as kind of textural, or as like a compositional filmmaker. Like he's thinking about form, and so I can get over some of the really scary stuff in those movies. And so it's weird. I mean, I really love like psychological thrillers because of the textural aspect of that. And this movie had a lot of texture to it too. Like there's quiet feelings. There's like, it feels physical or tangible. Like you could almost reach out and touch certain scenes. Like whenever she would walk by that Coney
You're talking
Island.
about Green Knight or MAUD?
I'm talking about
MAUD.
Sorry,
Okay.
I keep doing that. I keep saying this movie about MAUD, and then everyone's like, "Hey, wait, are you talking about the movie you just mentioned or a different movie?" But
the entry for the foyer,
yeah,
the lighting in the foyer is absolutely stunning.
Agree 1,000 times. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Also,
Yeah,
I
really,
had
like
to look it up because the Coney Island stuff in Scarborough Fair. I didn't, I learned a little bit about Scarborough. That was fascinating. It's like a resort
Is that where
joint.
it was?
Yeah.
It's in England. It's not in Coney Island at all. It's in
not even at all. But
I was like, this is not Coney Island. Like from the very beginning, I'm like, this isn't actually Coney Island. He's like, but it says Coney Island. I'm like, this is not Coney Island.
yeah,
I've never been to Coney Island, and I've never been to Scarborough.
Oh,
I
I've
also
been to
had to look
Coney
it up.
Island.
she brought me to Coney Island. It was beautiful. It was
You've
fun.
been to Scarborough?
No, I said I had to look it up because I've been to neither place.
Okay.
I was sad that they didn't have any parsley, sage, rosemary, or thyme in this movie. Then
Remember me as one who
Good.
goes there.
I have a couple
Quite a
of
number
takes.
of singings last night.
I have a couple of takes that I got from a couple of reviewers that I thought were really interesting, that are kind of about Amanda a bit.
Okay.
So something someone said was, Amanda is coming to terms with the death in her future, while Maud is coming to terms with the death in her past, which I thought was like, as like a read of the movie, is a pretty interesting take.
Mm-hmm.
On that. And then, but although I don't think it actually explains very much of anything.
no, it's just a good sentence.
Yeah, it's a good sense.
Someone was like, "This is a good sentence." I'm gonna put it in the review.
No, I appreciate that though. I do think it makes sense, honestly.
This is also an interesting little tidbit that I didn't notice until I heard someone say it. There is a motif of noise imposing itself on Maud's sanctuary in her like apartment, and when she goes to her room at Amanda's, there's no noise that interrupts. Like there's no noise coming from the street or outside that interrupts her in her room until Carol shows up, and then there's noise that interrupts her peace in her room.
Interesting. Even down to like a Joy visiting her when she's like in one of her most deepest prayer states, like preparing herself for self-martyrdom. Like,
Yeah.
But you're talking about the introduction of noise at Amanda's versus the fact that there is noise where Amanda's dwelling. Is that what you're saying?
No, in Maud's apartment at the beginning of the movie, and in various points, there's these I mean, it's throughout the movie. So like she'll hear like noise coming from the outside and close the window, and it's like people fighting or whatever.
Yeah.
Like city noise.
Yeah, city noise. And it's
Yeah,
like
okay.
disturbing. It's clearly like disturbing her. And then when she goes to Amanda's, that doesn't happen until Carol shows up and they're like partying in the other room and she hears it and like and she can't block it out.
Carol.
Yeah.
Just kidding. That was so just kidding.
That's really cool. I love that. There's so many layers.
Another thing that I didn't notice until someone said it was that like when she finally gets fired and she goes back to her apartment, she's like lost control of her. It's like after her secular moment, after she gets raped and all that, and like she's back in her apartment and she's like praying and she says, "Don't let me fall again." And then there's like this hardcore bass line that comes in and then like she starts vomiting.
Yeah.
And then she gets like picked up by God. But someone said, "Oh, it's just she's having an epileptic seizure from the fireworks that are going on."
I have that. The water running, open door, fireworks, fourth possession, all during the transformation. Never waste your pain.
Yeah, great quote, right?
Yeah.
She says that to the bum in the beginning of the movie too.
Yep.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Says that twice. But
So is there anything else that happened during that scene, Bob?
well, I mean, I thought that was
so this is
interrupted, right? Was that was
not that
the
particular
point where
moment.
she was being raised up, or was it just
Yes.
where she like woke up and that was it? You know what I mean? I felt like
No, she gets raised up. So the take is like, whereas you might interpret that as like a moment where she's like experiencing a God moment.
Yeah.
It points to the fact that, oh, maybe it's just another
fireworks.
delusion because she's having an epileptic seizure and she has epilepsy or something. I don't really know that much about epilepsy.
Yeah, but I don't know if anything else in the film really points towards that, or if this whole film is
No,
like
it doesn't, which is, but she does like, she is vomiting and like her vomit is white. So it's like,
But wasn't that from the night that she had been like slamming him down and just like going for it all night? Isn't
Yes.
that right? Yeah.
so I don't know.
I don't know if I was looking at the like the texture and the color of the vomit. I think I just assumed that it was because she was
the
like
vomit was orange.
going ape shit, you know.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's fair, you know. Wait, what did you say, Emmanuelle? It was orange?
I just thought in my mind, the vomit is orange.
Okay. So I mean, did you personally
Very
like hold meaning or anything to that? Because
I'm going to add vomit, white or orange.
The court recognizes white or orange vomit.
In the notes.
No, I think it all tied in really well to, I don't know, her becoming weaker and weaker and Satan becoming stronger with her delusional state of mind, and how easy it was for him to just, I don't know, show random acts of power. And then for her to be even more convinced, like, it just seemed like it was very easy for him to.
well, yeah, because right after that scene, she like her repentance was the tax shoe,
Yeah.
right? She was like, "I'm so sorry that I slipped up. God,
Foot
forgive
massage
me.
for God.
Like I fucked up pretty bad, so I'm just gonna walk around on some nails for a minute. My bad." You know, and so you're saying that this is Satan like slowly but surely grinding her down
Yeah, absolutely. And
into taking her, not only her soul, but as many as possible, including Amanda's.
yeah.
Interesting. Oh wow. I did not read this that way at all, but that's Really fascinating.
It's so cool that you can read it in different ways. I love that.
I know, and I think this film is extremely successful in that way too.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
So the moral of the film is that work is Satan. Work will make you go crazy.
I did.
Yeah. I like sent an email to my job and I quit immediately.
Yeah, I would.
You know.
I mean, I get it.
I did hear one person review this as like a class struggle thing allegory. I thought that was a bit far-fetched, but how I was like, I couldn't really piece it together because it was something about how Amanda has all the power and Maud is her, like, the subclass person, which I was like, okay, sure, but it doesn't really make sense to the movie.
I don't know if
I think that like ties into it, but I don't think that is that's why it's such a good movie, is there's all these pieces in it that are true. Like the power dynamic between them, the economic status between them, her past, and these different characters meeting in the particular way they do. But
I think I'd have to spend quite a lot of time unpacking that, as far as like trauma being linked to like alcohol abuse and just like these other, it's not having stable housing. It almost seemed like I thought she moved into a different kind of like housing situation instead of just, I see. She was returning to her apartment from living
with Amanda.
But it still seemed like it was like, I don't know. I'd have to spend a lot of time reading that.
She lives in a shitty, like, dinky apartment.
Like
Amanda is like an upper class American in England that has all these like rich art friends.
Right. I see. Well, I understand like it just seemed like she got fired and then got placed in some kind of weird, like, almost like quasi-institutional housing. That's what it's. Yeah. But it was just her old apartment. That's why it was furnished.
Yeah.
I see. So either way, I think.
Same.
I'd have to, like, just considering all of the facets of life that are affected by socioeconomic status, I'd have to take a while to re-examine under that lens and see like what that looks like as far as like even gaining access to mental health like resources and just like living on your own, and like what is her support system and why is it like that, and what are her outlets, and is that a product of socioeconomic status?
It seems like she has no one in the movie, like, and everyone that even tries to connect with her, she rejects.
Yeah. I took her apartment more as like a deliberate decision, like as part of the suffering.
Yeah, she seems to prefer physical suffering. Physical suffering seems to be a crucial part of her relationship with her God, because on every instance when she's trying to like make good, like when she does a bad job trying to convert Amanda or whatever, like her response to that is to inflict physical pain.
Self-flagellation, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's the whole vibe. Like you take the whip across your back.
I also read someone talking about, like, you remember the scars on, like, you get to see her, like, some top, like on the top of her pelvis or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, someone said that was stretch marks from being pregnant, and I was like, I don't know about that.
Yeah, there's people searching for sure. I mean, going back to what we were just saying though, like I still feel like the as opposed to a classist look at it, I still feel like it's a large part of it is sexual repression to the fullest. But it's interesting seeing the bar scene where she like just relapses and goes ape shit, and drinks and has sex with multiple male partners in different ways, but like I still feel like she's feeling repressed through this self-imposed facet of whatever it obviously not Catholicism. I've been schooled thoroughly in that. But, and whatever her lens of is that I feel like that's like a huge part of what's going on with her in this film. You know, and do y'all think that she's in love with Amanda, or is that?
I definitely think so. Yeah, I think she's deeply in love with her and doesn't know how to deal with it.
And do you think that's partly because she doesn't know how to live freely in that same way? Or, I mean, Amanda represents like freedom in so many ways that she has not lived. And
interesting.
and she resents her and she loves her.
Yeah.
For that, and you know, all to a beautiful conclusion.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
All hell, Saint Maud.
Oh man, but
can we agree that the best part of the movie is when Joy is in her apartment and she asks if Maud wants a ciggy?
Well, yeah, there was a lot of, you know, I had to think about that. I was just like, damn, dude.
I've never said a ciggy. Never.
She's like, she has to have known her for so long that she known her back when she was smoking regularly, where she's just like, I'm just going to smoke in your apartment and it doesn't even matter.
And do you want a ciggy?
Do you want a ciggy? We smoked together all the time back in the day.
I think there's no like, do you want? It's just ciggy.
Is it just Siggy?
It's just Siggy.
I love Siggy.
Well, and yes, and the other best part of that is like Maud's acting and reaction after all of that. Like just her whole gaze and
oh my god, her outfit in that scene. Man. The socks and the skivvies.
That's me for Halloween, right
the
there.
The Saint Maud costume.
That's a great costume.
Just like
that's good for you. Yeah.
I can do it.
Yep.
Very mousy, weird. You gotta find those hair, like kind of.
Yeah. Those like fancy scissors that she kills Amanda with.
What?
Yeah. I got it. It's all good.
Oh, like medical scissors.
I thought you were saying she was holding the scissors in that scene, but she's not.
No, I'm just like
she had letter
imagining
opener scissors, like the or were they medical? I thought they're just like the golden plated, like very beautiful and ornate scissors, and like.
Oh, is that what she went to town with?
Yep, went to town.
I'm just trying to imagine the best Saint Maud costume.
I'll show you in a few weeks.
Oh, definitely like the napkin with the ribbon that they made for her at the party.
That kind of like brings two parts of the movie together because that's her like at her lowest, and her like robe is at her highest point, right?
It'll just be me burning on the beach, dude.
No.
Don't do it, Mark.
Hey. We can make little paper flames.
Too far, people. Too far.
Jeez Louise.
Come on, we're talking about horror films.
Yeah.
We are watching a series. What are we watching?
Oh, the next Mike Flanagan one.
So wait, who is Mike Flanagan?
I'm looking him up.
He did The Bly Manor, Haunting of Hill House, and Bly. What was it?
Yeah, Bly, which was an adaptation of the Turn of the Screw. But what is this one? Midnight Mass or something?
Midnight Mass.
These are all
it's
from
like
the
the
60s?
story of a dude who he has a car accident when he's drunk and kills a woman, goes to prison and returns home when he's like in his 30s. And so it's all about him being back, but there's like spookies.
This is from the 60s, this guy?
Say again?
Was that?
The 60s? This is from the 60s?
No, this is from like 2021.
Last month.
Whoa.
This is like out right now.
Wait, so wait.
Midnight Mass.
This is not the same person that did the original Haunting of Hill House.
Not at all.
No, it was it's a series.
It was a Netflix series from like 3 years ago, I believe.
Or 4
A show?
Yeah, that was really good.
It's a mini series. It's like these mini series that Matt was talking about. Like it's a 10 episode kind of thing. It's one season, and it's just the show. It's just like a long movie. It's like a 10-hour movie.
Yeah.
I got a picture of the scissors here. I'll try to drop it in the chat.
Mike Flanagan wrote "I Know What You Did Last Summer."
Oh God.
Whoa.
No way.
I mean, that's what it says here. I don't know. if
Don't
that's
crush
right.
my soul like this. No.
That wasn't
Like
horrible.
a different version of that. This is weird. Hold on. Oh, it's 2021 version of "I Know What You Did Last Summer,"
No.
which I guess is.
Thanks, Bob. Holy shit, dude.
Yeah.
Damn.
Where'd you get that picture?
Good night.
Can you zoom in a little? Are those medical scissors? Yeah.
No,
Little-
I mean, why do
little
they have
bobs?
the little nubs on the?
They're
Oh my
dance.
god.
I don't know.
You have a screenshot of the last frame of her burning so we can see if it's Amanda.
Ah, good call.
Ah, yeah, good. Yeah, here, let me. I think I closed that out.
Here, I'm gonna take a screenshot of all of us talking along with this lady.
Which lady?
Oh, the scissor queen over here.
Oh, the scissor queen.
Here, let me get this.
I got it. I know how to do it.
I know you know how to do it, but okay.
I can't find the.
Oh, so is Mike? Did this Flanagan? Yeah, is he as terrible as we thought?
No, I mean, it looks. I'm confused about which "I Know What You Did Last Summer" this is.
No,
Also,
but I mean, The Haunting of Hill House was amazing.
What?
That the Haunting of Hill House, that show is incredible.
Yeah, that show is really good.
And that's on
uh,
Netflix.
He directed that, and The Haunting of Bly Manor
Yes.
was just fine, and he directed that.
The Bly.
Was that
Why? Yeah.
Bly.
Oh, he did
That's
Oculus.
him. There he is.
There's all
Look at him.
Flanagan, right there.
Wait, hold it up again.
He's
White and male as ever.
he's definitely got enough of baldness to be scary.
The movie Oculus was interesting, although I don't think it was that good.
Yeah,
Did he
it
do
was
that one too?
interesting. I didn't really like it, but I liked some things about it.
We did do Oculus.
I do like mirror stuff is really scary. It scares me every time.
Mirror.
Stuff,
Yeah.
like in general,
Well, in horror movies.
like the
I mean,
use of mirrors.
yeah, use of mirrors. If a character looks in the mirror and their reflection does something else, it always scares me.
Oh yeah, that's a really
It's
fundamentally
terrifying.
terrifying. thing.
Yeah.
Daniel was there some of that in Daniel Isn't Real? There was, right?
I can't remember. We watched that like the day it came out because Chris Clark made the music for it.
Yeah.
Mm.
What?
Yeah, he scored it. So I was like waiting for it to come out for like.
I haven't
a
seen
year.
that movie.
Oh, it's fantastic. It's like Spectre Vision, the same cats who made Mandy.
Arnold
It's-
Schwarzenegger's son.
What?
plays-
Yeah, Patrick Schwarzenegger, he did a fantastic. And?
Oh, Elijah Wood is like the spectral.
Well, yeah. Spectre Vision is Elijah Wood and Daniel
Yeah.
Noah.
Elijah Wood is in some good horror movies.
Yeah, because he has that whole
Yeah.
production company, right?
Yeah, I mean,
Oh my God, I
Wow.
told Mark that he was in The Good Son. And he's like, no, that was Macaulay Culkin. And I was like, The Good Son was Elijah Wood. And he's like, no. And I was
Yeah.
like,
I thought it was, which one was? There is a Macaulay Culkin though that he's bad. He's a bad boy.
he's the bad son in The Good Son.
Oh,
Yeah.
There are two
The
of
Good
them,
Son.
and it's Elijah and Macaulay. They're in the
Macaulay,
same
sure.
film.
That's
Has
funny.
everyone seen that but me? I've never even heard
I
of
actually
that.
have never seen that movie, but I've read that book, if you can believe that.
It's so
What?
ridiculous. I think it must take place in Northern California now that I've seen the coast here. I was a
I
kid when
can't-
I watched it.
It's either that or like New England or something.
No, but it's all cliffy.
I know,
It's all the
but I feel like
cliffs.
there's
Yeah.
parts of Maine. Where is
the cliff is a crucial part of the movie.
that's true.
It's an eclipsis.
It's on. Oh, it's in Maine. It's in Maine. That's what I
Is
thought.
it shot in Maine?
Well, I don't know. Hold on. but it's
Sometimes the X-Files says it's in Maine and they shoot in freaking
I know.
Washington.
Every
It's gonna
movie
be
that
Oregon.
takes place in Miami is shot in LA, and you can tell because people do things like wear clothes in the movie.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Oh, it's
I think the whole first season of X-Files is like in Canada or like in Toronto or something.
Oh,
You think that's where they shot it? And it all looked like Oregon to me.
There's a lot of like redwood, ferny type things, and then they're like, "This is in Maine," and I'm like, "No, it isn't."
I think it's in Canada. I think it's all in Canada.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, I'd believe that.
Cool.
It's
Well,
okay. Sorry.
You
I
guys
don't
seen
even
that?
know how to get to explain what I'm reading about The Good Son. But apparently the sets were Ian McEwan who's a great author, by the way, if you haven't read any of his stuff, was optimistic about the project, and sets were being built in Maine for production, and then Macaulay Culkin's dad decided that Macaulay Culkin needed to be in the movie because he wanted him to be he wanted to have Macaulay in a dark role. So they like completely shut down production so that they could, because Macaulay was supposed to be in Home Alone 2 and The Good Son was supposed to kick off for the same time. So they pushed the movie back, which caused all these problems.
Are you out of your fucking mind? Is
No.
this
This is all I'm reading off
100% real?
Wikipedia right now. And
Oh
that's
my
the
God, man.
only reason that Elijah Wood was involved was because Home Alone 2 delayed the movie by a year. So,
well, Jesus Christ, man.
yeah.
Oh
But
boy.
I still don't know if it was shot in Maine. All I
Like
know
he
is
had just like watched The Omen. He's like, my son needs to be in a film like this.
yeah.
He needs to be in The Omen. Macaulay, come here. We need
That's
to
cool
talk
though.
about this.
But then Elijah's in the film.
Is that
Yeah.
his real name?
Go ahead.
Is his real name Macaulay?
Yeah.
We could probably
Macaulay.
also find that out on Wikipedia.
Hang on. Well, no. Go ahead and look that up. There was something that I really wanted to.
Wait. Oh, okay. So his name right now is Macaulay Culkin, apparently. Which is actually like a
Oh
thing that I've always wanted to have someone do. But he was born Macaulay Carson Culkin, August 26, 1980.
Oh God.
And now he's Macaulay Culkin.
Yeah, he did the joke that I've always told.
I think it's more like Macaulay Culkin.
He seems like he's having fun.
All right, he's a good cat, man. Honestly, I enjoy following him around. You know.
Either that or he like is about to light himself on fire on the beach.
No.
On September 17th, 2004, Culkin was arrested in Oklahoma City for the possession of 17.3 grams of marijuana.
Motherfucking piece of what?
He's he's just no gooder.
No gooder.
No good or doer.
Oh, I forgot he was in the Black or White music video by Michael Jackson's Black or White.
All right, so let's go around and do like 3 rounds of top horror film recommendation shout-outs real quick.
Oh, yeah,
starting
yeah.
with Bob. Go.
Okay, best horror movie
Just
recommendations
one.
of
We're
all
going to do
time.
3 rounds. Name one, quick.
Return of the Living Dead. Can I
Okay.
elaborate?
No.
Yes, please, because I need to write it down.
All right, Return of the Living Dead. Elaborate quickly.
It's
You have 30
campy.
seconds.
It's campy, but it has such style, and the story is actually got a lot of potential, even though it's delivered in a very campy way. And it's actually really gets me. It like makes me nervous. By the end of the movie, my shoulders are up, even though it's campy.
Okay. Which one is that one? Is that the one at the mall or the black and white film?
No. So John Russo, who was one of the writers of Night of the Living Dead, was not involved in Day of the Dead or Dawn of the Dead, which was George Romero's project,
Right.
was involved with Return of the Living Dead, which is like the sequels that came up in the 80s. Sure.
Okay.
So like,
Where does
Night
this
of
one
Living-
take
Night of
place?
the
Because
Living
I feel
Dead
like
in
I've
the-
seen it. I just want to try to place it in my mind.
sure, Night of the Living Dead in the 60s. Then we have
Yep.
the 70s and 80s with Day of the Dead, Dawn of the Dead, and all the Italian ones, and then the early 80s, Return of the Living Dead. I guess that was late 80s. Kind of spun it up to a new. It really opened up the zombie genre, I would say.
Okay.
To the modern era.
Is this the one where the dude is like underground trying to train the zombie?
Definitely not.
Okay.
It's got like these punk
no.
rockers. The soundtrack, fantastic soundtrack.
Okay, so I just need to watch this to get my own context for it.
It's one of my favorite movies of all time. Return of the Living Dead, the first one.
Along with okay, cool. So I'm just gonna say Hellraiser 1, the OG. I love it. Yeah. I love the puzzle box, the everything that happens therein. Frank being torn apart. I love the Cenobites. I love the practical effects. I love what they did with it. I think it's a fantastic horror film, and it's a wonderful world to dive into. Emmanuelle,
can I say one thing about Hellraiser?
Quickly,
in the franchise?
15 seconds.
Okay. It's a franchise that has so much potential that has wasted every opportunity.
Well, look on the news, Emma Reffer, because they're about to redo it and Clive's involved, and it's going to be good.
What?
Well, I hope so, because they
just cast Pinhead. Look who they cast Pinhead as. It's exciting.
Yeah.
Who is it?
I forget her name, but it's super rad.
Yeah.
Is it Scarlett Johansson?
Look it up, Maddie. Look it up. Boom, boom. Look it up, Maddie.
Okay.
Emmanuelle was going, right?
Carnival of Souls.
Okay.
Oh, the original one, right?
Yeah.
Carnival. Can we get a date range on that?
60s, I think.
Yeah, I think that is.
Yeah.
Can we
it's like a director. I don't know if he's directed anything else, but
Can we get a 10-second rant?
yeah. So it's this movie, this low budget movie in the 60s that inspired all these horror classics like Psycho and I don't know, a million movies. When I rewatched it, I was like, oh shit, this is influenced like, I don't know, David Lynch has referenced it and Martin Scorsese or one of them maybe.
Oh my God. Awesome.
But it's a woman on her own solo journey. And probably the movie we just watched was influenced by it. And it's kind of like her descent into through her own mind and hallucinatory / real weaving in and out. It's really good.
Oh, beautiful. Thank you. I've not seen that and I'm excited to see it now. All right, Matt.
I love how old movies are like, there's
Captain.
like classics that influence all modern movies, no matter how subtle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jamie Clayton was cast to play Pinhead. I don't know her, but that's good.
Good old Jamie Clayton.
She looks like a totally hot movie star.
Well, she won't for long.
Better not.
She's
Damn.
dredged out of hell.
Why?
No, I am excited that Clive Barker is back on board. He had to fight hard to get the legal rights to the story.
This is an L word person.
What's that?
This is the L word character.
Yes.
What?
What?
The show, the L word.
Yeah.
Yes.
Huh.
Well, people, I'm sorry. I'm sorry for everything. However, I think that it's going to be a good production. Like from everything that I've read from Clive, I think it's going to be a good redux of Hellraiser.
I hope so.
If you're going to remake it, you have to do it well.
Right.
And also, by the way, Bob, you didn't like Hellraiser 2? I love that movie.
I could go off on Hellraiser for a long time.
You don't like Hellraiser 2, though.
No. Okay. Okay. Here's my thing about Hellraiser is that it contains in the raw materials of the story and the mythos much more potential than has ever been realized by any of the movies, including the first one. That's my take on it. And I think many franchises fall prey to
just from
this.
the book Hellbound Heart, the novella?
What?
Are you just talking about like what is contained within like the Hellbound Heart, like the original book? Or are you talking about like what's introduced in the movie in the first place?
I didn't know there was a book. No, I'm just talking about the movie. I have a comic book too, actually, which is quite good. It's actually the best piece of Hellraiser material that I've seen. But like all of the sequels, I don't even know how many there are. There's like 10. Like they're all, I've seen a lot of them and they're very not good. A lot of them. And the mythos, the structure of the world that was created in the first movie has such potential. It's rich with possibility.
Yes. Okay. Agreed. But I don't want, we should do a whole separate ranty rant on this one. So I apologize for taking it into this. But hey, Crystal, you're up.
But I didn't even say what I was, because I don't even know.
Well, like, you said an actress's name.
I don't know if it's not David Lynch.
It could be.
It could be, but everyone knows that. I mean, I would definitely recommend In Fabric to everybody, even though it's not really a horror movie.
What is that?
Already.
Oh yeah.
In Fabric is like my favorite movie, and it's
you haven't mentioned it tonight,
and I
because
don't know
I already have 7 mentions from you on the list.
It came up earlier today.
Yeah.
But that's good to know that it didn't track. But it did come up in the beginning. Maybe we were talking about it before the actual.
No, because the composer of the music for Saint Maud referenced In Fabric as one of his favorite movies. Like,
just leave her alone.
Oh, hello.
Oh, really?
In
She's
Fabric,
like almost sleeping.
Yeah. So Una's bugging me a bunch, but In Fabric is like maybe my favorite. I like, Moonlight and In Fabric are probably tied to be my favorite movie.
Moonlight is beautiful.
Yeah. And they're both like, because they're so thoroughly done, and for totally different reasons. Like, I don't think there's a funnier movie to me than In Fabric. It's like
Moonlight and In Fabric are not related.
They're not related at all. They're very different. No. They're both like incredibly well done for what they are.
About Moonlight.
No, I'm not going to talk about it. That's not a horror movie.
I know. That's
it is kind of.
No, I know, and also, I was glad you were like the funniest film I've ever seen. But anyway,
In Fabric is the funniest, and it's
so funny.
It's about a haunted dress, basically. Like the main
you have to just watch In Fabric.
You mean haunt cartoon?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yes, and there are so many reasons why I love it, but the main reason is that it's very Argento. Like, it references Dario Argento a lot, and the department store that she buys the dress at, and the people who run the department store are like all witches, and they're amazingly written. Just like some of the funniest writing I've ever heard.
Oh my God. So this can go on our 31 for 31 list?
Yeah, and it's a horror movie, but it's like
I put it on the Fantastic Tones for Human Bones horror movie Excel spreadsheet.
Awesome.
You might have an auxiliary.
How can we like share this with the public? The spreadsheet, like our
we can put it on a website.
You could
the World Wide Web. Very good.
Yeah.
But the last thing about In Fabric that I want to say is that the music is by Cavern of Antimatter, which is Stereolab without it's like one of the people from Stereolab. So it's also really
like Tim Gaines or one.
Yeah, it's Tim Gaines. Yeah, I think
nice, dude. Nice.
Oh yeah, it's like the music is great, the sound, and then there's like one Nurse with Wounds song in the middle, which it like kind of separates the two sections of the movie. It's, to me, Peter Strickland, the director, is like definitely one of the better directors out now. Yeah, all of his movies are
when was this film made?
It's like last year.
And what is Tim Gaines' number?
His actual
phone number? Cell phone?
Just kidding, man. But like, no, that's amazing. So this came out really recently, and Tim Gaines was one of the main producers of the soundtrack. That's incredible. Like,
Cavern of Antimatter, which is it's great. and yeah, it's Tim Gain and Joe Dilworth and Holger Zapp. So Stereolab drummer Tim Gain and Holger Zapp, who I can't remember what he's from, but he's a well-known synth dude. But yeah, it's good. The music's good. The sound design's good. The writing is incredible. Peter Strickland, like I was saying, is to me, he did Bavarian Sound Studio, and
I saw
the
Duke of Burgundy.
Duke of Burgundy.
Yeah. I haven't seen Duke of Burgundy yet.
It's so good.
Wait, I think I mentioned this. Did any of you watch Dave Made a Maze?
No.
No, not yet, but it's on my list.
I'm gonna watch it. I'm curious. It looks fascinating, but this movie that you're talking about, Matt, is top one. We're definitely gonna watch that like immediately.
Yeah,
sounds amazing.
I mean, I rarely buy movies because
do you have like devices in which to play?
No,
Disney?
I mean, I just I bought it digitally, right? But
okay,
I wanted to be able to watch it anytime I wanted without even considering, because of how awesome that movie is, I think. So I just bought it.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's
all
cool.
right.
Which will happen.
All right, I'm gonna give my 3 with a bonus kick that I know all of you have already seen. So the first one is The Brood.
I
haven't seen that.
I love The Brood so much. I love it.
Talk about like Halloween costume fantasy.
Oh my
I haven't seen it.
Like just like the white thing with like a bunch of fetuses spilling out.
Yes, that's my dream.
Yeah.
Just open your eyes and you have just like
And just
Yes,
like,
dude, yes.
bam! Oh my
movie's
god, it's so good.
It's my
so
dream.
good.
Super creepy.
Cronenberg, by the way.
Little
for the
tiny,
listeners.
like
Yeah.
you know.
Oh, Cronenberg.
Minions.
Yeah, the Cronin. What do you call those things?
I mean, like
Minions.
he's known for.
What are they? The cryptids. Cryptids.
What?
There we go.
Well, cryptids are like I don't know.
Yeah, but these are kind of cryptidy.
Yeah.
They have cryptid vibes.
Yeah, for sure.
So The Brood.
But it's like classic Cronenberg body horror
Love.
vibes for sure.
Yeah. The other is Parasite.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That was a fun one. Yeah.
Yeah, which is more of like social commentary, like psychological thriller.
Yeah.
But it's like super sad and oddly horrific. Veronica, which
I've
is
seen
a
that.
Spanish film about supernatural occurrences with the Ouija board, and then she like
Oh wow, we watched that like 3 years.
it's like
ago?
based on a true story and like these spirits that come into our house.
Write it down.
Yeah, it's a fantastic film. It was made in 2017.
Oh, that one was creepy.
It was super creepy with the old lady nun smoker.
It wasn't like The Nun, because they came out with The Nun like I think around the same time or after that, but this one
No,
had
Veronica is totally, and they got like lots of like footage from the actual events and things.
Oh, nice. I haven't seen that. I'm so excited.
So that's a good one. And then obviously Mandy. It's I gotta put it on to celebrate. If you haven't seen it in a while, just throw it on.
I should just run and change into my Cheddar Goblin shirt real quick, just because we're done this. But
And you know, for what it's worth, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood was a really fun, like Manson-y vibe movie.
Yeah, that was. Yeah.
It was interesting.
that was more of a fantasy tale, but that's all good.
A fantasy tale.
There were some violent murders in it, but that's
But those
not
are
quite
my
the same thing.
yeah.
I 100% support The Brood and Veronica. I mean, The Brood is like such an incredible movie.
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
man,
It's great.
so good.
Yeah, that one stuck with me for so long.
I was gonna say Mandy as like one of my favorites, but you said it, so I won't say it. But
Yeah.
I will, which leaves me room to say two more, which I will say.
Do it.
Nosferatu, the Werner Herzog Nosferatu.
I was gonna say that. I love that.
Damn.
Yeah. That was
Yeah.
Is that Klaus Kinski?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Klaus Kinski as Nosferatu. No movie like the soundtrack. I mean, every Werner Herzog movie is amazing. This is no exception. And it's one of the few Werner Herzog movies that really dives into the supernatural, which is great. I'm gonna say also, and I'll just finish up with Nightmare on Elm Street 5.
Which one is that?
Okay, so there's a lot of Nightmare on Elm Street movies, and 5 is, I think, the best one because, well, for a lot of reasons, but Nightmare on Elm Street is a series where like the characters in the movie are often wandering into dream states unaware that they've fallen asleep or whatever, and then Freddy does his fun little jokes, but like in the fifth movie, like because of the circumstances that they establish, whatever, blah blah blah, like it's like almost constantly shifting back and forth between dream and reality the whole movie with no like clear breaks. Like in a lot of the other movies, like you have dreams and then it reaches a climax and it cuts and then you're like back in reality, and then like it sneaks into, like, lets you know when you're going into dreamland. In 5, it's like a roller, it's like you're like never sure if you're in reality the whole movie. It's super crazy.
Nice. That's amazing.
And it's also got a lot of like those like mid 90s special effects with like actual puppets and things that are like,
Yes.
I love that. Yeah.
you know,
Some of the best special effects.
there's a lot of puppets in that movie that are real silly.
Oh,
And
that
also
reminds
the-
me of The Thing. Have you all seen The Thing?
Oh,
John
yeah.
Carpenter, right? Yeah.
Classic.
Watched
Yeah.
that recently.
We watched
So
that
good.
about a year and a half ago. It's amazing.
Yeah, we rewatched it recently too. It's so good.
I love that movie so much, and that was one that I would have brought up. I mean, but on that same note that you were saying, Bob, one
wait.
that I would like to bring up in terms of
Wait, I have a
puppets being-
question.
Go ahead.
Who has seen The Thing from Another World, the 60s version of The Thing?
No.
Nope.
I'm
Because
putting it
John
on the list.
Carpenter's is a remake of
Yeah.
the movie The Thing from Another World.
Oh,
Yeah.
nice.
Well, there was an episode. I thought we were watching the X-Files.
We
when
were.
we saw an episode that modeled The Thing, and then we saw The Thing, which would have been much less than a year and a half ago.
Well, no, we had seen
That's
the
what I
thing first,
thought
and then we
was-
saw we started the X-Files after we had finished TNG.
Right, but then we watched The Thing again.
I feel like we had seen the
Or
thing
did we-
about a year and some change ago. And
Hey,
then,
y'all,
like-
it ain't no thing.
Anyway, so we haven't seen the interesting thing is that it's the thing about that is that it was taken from, if it was, remade from The Thing from Another World, it's just being made so many times over because it's a really great story, like this idea of like
It's a great
the
story.
unknown extremes of our world inevitably are filled with horror or some force that we're not supposed to be there to see.
And is the thing from the other world based off of? It sounds Lovecraftian. You know what I mean?
No, it's less Lovecraftian than John Carpenter's version.
Okay. Well, I mean, going back to what you were saying about like horrifying puppets, I was actually going to say, because this came up on our last Bandcamp Rex, Return to Oz is an oddly terrifying movie.
That's been on my list for so long, but I still
And-
haven't seen it.
It's like, it's not a horror film, but it like does the uncanny valley thing extremely well, and it's like one of the most unsettling movies that I've seen ever. And I almost have been reluctant to revisit it since I saw it like just almost on accident when I was like back in my Lutheran, sixth grader days type vibe. That shit scared the hell out of me, man. That movie's fucked up.
Nice.
But I will rewatch it. Yeah, I think it It's crazy because we were talking about the Sufjan record that came out, which I listened through all the way, and it sounds fantastic.
Is there a new Sufjan record?
There's one in particular. There's always a new Sufjan record.
Always a new, yes.
There's one in particular that we all are kind of shining on because it's a little bit. It's a touch back to Seven Swans, I think.
Yeah,
Okay.
it sounds fantastic.
It's
great.
it's his collaboration with someone else. I don't know the other person very.
Yeah,
That
Andy
goes-
Pants was talking about it.
It's going on my horror movie recommendations list.
Are there any other recommendations that we're missing?
I
Yes.
was trying to think. I mean, I know Emmanuelle has like a ton, but she went to go get some water.
Unacceptable.
Bob and I were talking about Super Dark Times the other day.
Oh yeah.
And that movie, the reason I was saying that is like, that's one of those movies that like, I was like physically affected by that movie. I was like shaking. I was so anxious when we watched that movie. I was like, I couldn't like I was actually like almost ill from it. But yeah.
When was that made, and what is that about?
It's like it starts out like it's like Stand By Me. It's like a bunch of kids hanging out, but then they start playing with a sword and everything goes bad. And that's really
Okay.
But that's only like a part of it. But
Yeah.
it scared me because I don't know. I just had like the cadence of the peak of that movie made me like physically uncomfortable.
When was that made? Do you know?
It's recent. I think like really recent. Let's see.
I want to share you guys just this couple of cells from this document that we have in the Fantastic Tones for Human Bones horror movie list. That's
Ben
extra
Frost
silly because just because. But I think you'll like
Ben
it.
Frost did the music for Super Dark Times, which is cool. He's been doing some killer music for horror movies and surreal TV shows.
The Blob.
The Blob. Monster.
Blob.
Classic and great.
Blob is so good. What about
These
the
are
stuff?
two different movies I'm recommending.
The Stuff. I know that Bob loves The Stuff because I watched it with him. a long
Oh
time.
yeah.
I mean, come on.
The remake of The Blob is very intense.
When was that remade?
It's a 90s movie. But I mean there's the 60s classic and then which is pretty good, but the 90s
Well,
movies
it's classic, but the 90s is great.
yeah. 3 stars.
There are some really. Go ahead. Go ahead.
No, that's it. I'm over recommending. I could go. The thing is, you guys are gonna have to stop me because I could just keep doing this.
Yeah.
I
Like
wish I
manual.
could like.
Yeah.
I wish I could point to some episodes of the X-Files that have just been like so. I know this sounds ridiculous. I know it sounds like absolutely crazy, but there's like some with the.
What about the episode of that one in the first season when they go into the woods and those little green dots that come in?
Yes, that's fantastic.
Oh yeah, that
I
one
thought
is
about that
so-
last night.
Yeah, that's so.
But they they're everywhere, but you only see them once it's dark.
Yeah.
You know what I
they're
mean?
trying to
But they're
keep the
already all
generators
around you. Yeah,
on.
yeah.
And then there's one with like Jack Black and the arcade and that dude.
Oh, yeah, that one's really good.
He gets like electrocuted by lightning and he has these superpowers and he like calls in the lightning
Yeah,
The
all
human
the time.
tapeworm
Yes.
that like lives in the sewers and
Yes,
stuff. The human
and that
tapeworm
one.
I
one is
love that
brutal.
one. Yeah.
It's so brutal. We just watched one where like Scully refers back to that after like coming back. She's like, I wouldn't have changed anything with you, Mr. Mulder, but maybe I could have lived without the human tapeworm. You know, talking about like how they gone through all this shit, like all these alien abductions and all this stuff, and she's like, I could have done without the human tapeworm.
Some of them
That's
are
the
like
only-
super creepy. I keep
Hey,
thinking
y'all.
back and I'm like, damn, that was like
I gotta go.
It was an X-Files.
I gotta go. I gotta
yeah.
cut this off.
All right.
For
Love
me.
you, Bob.
Do you guys want to keep going or?
No, I think we got to split too, but nice to meet you, Emmanuelle, and Matt, we'll see you very soon.
It was great
Yeah.
to meet you.
This was
Yeah,
a
it great to
wonderful and
see you
lovely
guys.
conversation.
Yeah.
Let's do this again soon.
Absolutely, man. Anytime we watch a horror film, we'll be there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Great. Good to see
All right.
you.
All right.
All
Good night,
see
y'all.
you.
Thank you,
Bye.
Bob.
Thanks,
Bye.
Bob.